and I'm with UMBC Recreation. If this is your first time joining this class, welcome. If this is your first time taking yoga, that is a-okay. I do not expect everyone in this class or everyone who's taking this class to know all the poses by names or all the poses that I know. So although I will try to call up the pose before I get into alignment for those of us who are a little more experienced, I will build us up into poses, talk about alignment for people who may not be as familiar. This is a Vinyasa based class, so you'll notice that we repeat a lot of movements and we use inhales and exhales to move us in and out of poses and to help guide us into relaxation, especially towards the end of the practice. We do finish the practice in a final rest period. We remain still on our back for about 2 to 3 minutes. If this is your first time, that might feel like an eternity, but I do encourage you to stick with the practice and see it through to the end. Yoga is not just about what we do in our physical bodies. It is about what goes on the inside. It's a time for reflection, to be with our thoughts, and to join body and mind. I want to remind everyone to always listen to your body throughout practice. Take breaks if you need to. I will cue breaks throughout the class, but you are more than welcome to take a break at any time and jump back in when you're ready. And always talk with a doctor before you start a new exercise plan. Today we're going to get started laying down flat on our bellies. So start facing the front of your mat. Come to lay all the way down flat on your mat. Big toes touch, heels fall away from one another. Bend your elbows, stacking your hands, and you can rest your head on the hands like a pillow. Head can turn to one side or the other, or maybe forehead to the hands and faces down towards the mat. See what works best for you. And it's up to you whether you close the eyes or keep them open for the first few moments of class. Whichever you choose, I ask that you draw your attention to your breath. Notice each little movement the body makes as you inhale and as you exhale. And just appreciate that this involuntary motion that we go through every day that we don't even think about sustains us and gives us life. Deepen the breath a little bit and bring more of that life into yourself. As you exhale, see if you can let the body hang a little heavier onto your mat. If your head was turned to one side, try turning it to the opposite side, getting a stretch for the neck. If your forehead's on your hands, try gently rocking your head side to side. Resume your normal breath if you're still deepening the breath. Then bend the knees, pointing toes up towards the ceiling, and begin to windshield wiper the feet, letting them fall side to side. Bring your chin to the hands so you're looking forward. Just move the feet nice and slow, back and forth. Just releasing the low back here. Lower the legs back onto the mat. Bend the right knee into frog pose, keeping it tracking along the floor. The more you draw the knee up towards the face and away from the body, the more sensation you'll cause in the hip. So it's up to you how little or how much sensation you would like to create. Ankle stays in line with the knee, however, and right foot is flexed. We're going to take a few moments here, about 20 to 30 seconds or so. If your head was more comfortable turned to one side or the other, you're welcome to turn your head. And bring your focus back to the breath. Don't change the pattern, just follow it through. Slowly straighten the right leg, and then bend the left knee into frog pose, creating as much or little sensation in the hip as you like. Ankle in line with the knee. Foot is flexed. Straighten the leg back onto the mat. Place the hands underneath the shoulders, elbows face up towards the ceiling, chin to mat. Press your hip bones into the floor, draw the breath in through the nose and lift the chest into baby cobra, drawing belly in towards the spine to find lift in the chest. Shoulders wrap behind the heart, gazes up towards the ceiling. Take a few breaths here with core engaged as we open the front of the chest. And slowly lower the chest back down. Try to keep control. Use the breath, drawing in through the nose to find the lift in the chest. Exhale out through mouth, chest lowers to floor. 2 more times. Breath in, chest lifts, baby cobra. Exhale to lower. Breathe in, baby cobra. Exhale to lower. Press yourself to child's pose, hips all the way back to the heels, forehead to mat. Separate the knees a bit, make some space for your belly. If child's pose is uncomfortable in your hips or your knees, find puppy pose instead. Elbows to mat, stacked under shoulders, palms face down, gazing between the knees. Either pose, you're still getting a nice lengthening in the spine. Choose whichever is most comfortable in your body. Start to walk the fingertips over to the right side of the mat until you feel a stretch on the left side of the body. If you're in puppy pose on the elbows, walk the elbows over too. Walk fingertips back to center of mat, then over to the left. Fingers walk back to center and rise back to tabletop on the hands and the knees, wrists stacked under shoulders and knees stacked under the hips. Extend your left arm up to the ceiling, reach tall towards the sky, then thread the needle. So pass the raised hand through the right side between hand and knee, lowering all the way down to the shoulder. Relax the right shoulder away from the ear. Take a few breaths here, opening the back side of the body, finding a twist, working with the shoulder. Use the right hand to press yourself back into a tabletop position. Breathe in to lift the right arm up to ceiling. Stretch long. Exhale, thread the needle, passing it through the left this time, dropping down to shoulder. Use left hand to prop you back into tabletop position, hands in the knees. Then round the spine into cat pose, tuck chin to chest, draw belly in, lift away from the mat. Return to tabletop before lifting and arching the spine to cow, gazing up to ceiling, belly hangs to floor. Use your tailbone to lead the movement as we round the spine back to cat, drawing chin to chest, bunching belly in. Tailbone leads the movement as we lift and arch to cow, tilting head up to ceiling. Take this a few more times at your own pace, loosening the muscles around the spine. And start to tie your breath into the movement. Exhaling to find cat pose, rounding spine. Inhaling to lift and arch to cow. A few more times, deep in the breath. Tie it in with your movement. And meet me back in a tabletop position. Lift up to the tips of your fingers. Extend your right leg behind you, pointing through the toes, heel in line with hip. Draw belly in to flatten the back. Give me a crunch, drawing right knee in towards the chest, rounding the spine, lifting the knee as high as you can, drawing the belly in, then stepping or placing your foot into lunge, ankle directly below the knee, foot in between the hands. Tuck the left toes onto the mat, lift up to pointer and middle finger, lift the left knee into the air, sending chest forward, drawing belly in. Hips are square to the front of the mat, right knee is stacked over the ankle. Getting some length in our spine here, strengthening our legs. Pressing actively out through left heel. If the extended leg feels really tight, you can keep a soft bend in the knee. Lower left knee down to mat, uncurl the toes. Scoot the left knee back a few inches until you feel a nice stretch on the front side of the thighs, and your chest forward again, find length. Shift the hips back into half split, walking the fingertips back, flexing the forward foot. Spine stays long. Again, if you're feeling really tight in the extended leg, keep a gentle bend in the knee. Walk back to lunge, knee stacks over the ankle, hands frame the foot. Inch that left knee back in a bit. Draw the breath in, lift the right arm up to ceiling, pause and exhale here. Take a few deep breaths into your chest. Keep right foot flat to mat. On your next exhale, fingertips come down to floor, step back into tabletop. Knees under the hips, stay lifted up on the tips of the fingers. Left leg extends behind you, pointing through the toes. Draw the belly in, flatten back. Give me a crunch, knee to chest around the spine. Draw belly in, step or place the foot into lunge. Right toes tuck onto the mat, lift up to pointer and middle finger. Lift the right knee, send chest forward, draw belly in, holding here. Engage your core, strengthening those legs. Lower knee down to mat, uncurl the toes, top of foot to mat. Inch the right knee back a few inches until you feel that stretch on the front side of right thigh. Find length through the spine. And send the hips back to half split. Walk the fingertips back, flex the forward foot. Spine stays long. Meet me back in lunge, hands frame the foot and inch the right knee back in. Draw the breath in through the nose as you lift left arm up to ceiling. Pause and exhale here. Deepen the breath a bit, really filling up the ribs and the chest. Gaze is up towards the ceiling. On your next exhale, return fingertips to mat. Step back into tabletop, planting the hands flat to mat. Settle back to our rest position, child's pose, hips to heels, forehead to mat. Or remember, you can always take puppy pose if that's more comfortable with elbows down. Draw your attention back to your breath as we finish our warm-up. Slowly rise back to tabletop. Spread the fingers nice and wide, planting them firmly on the mat, pressing into pointer and thumb. Tuck toes onto the mat and lift the hips to down dog. Start by lifting the knees. Keep the knees bent for now as you send hips up towards the ceiling, pressing the belly back towards the thighs. Gaze is between the feet. Keep pressing into pointer and thumb. Holding here, nice lengthening in the spine here. Take a few deep breaths. If you're not feeling much sensation with the knees bent, try straightening one leg at a time and switching back and forth, working here, maybe feeling a little more sensation. Everyone look forward, start to shift your weight forward, draw your right knee in towards your chest and step or place your foot into lunge, foot between the hands, lifting up to tips of fingers, send that chest forward. Step up to half lift, step left foot up to the top of the mat, flatten back, parallel to floor, hands to shins, gazes down towards the floor as well. Lower to forward fold, gently bend the knees, drop your belly to your thighs, crown of the head and hands, reach for the floor. Take a few breaths here. Send the weight towards the balls of the feet, but keep heels planted. Low belly stays drawing in. Hips stay reaching towards the ceiling to keep the legs engaged. If your belly is far from the thighs, bend the knees until belly is either touching or very, very close to touching. Tuck your chin in towards your chest, and one vertebrae at a time, start to round the spine up to a standing position. I always encourage you to take your time here. Don't feel the need to rush. Stand tall at the top of your mat with purpose, palms face forward, shoulders relax down the back. Finding length through sides of the body, out through crown of head. Plant your feet firmly to the mat. Imagine roots growing down from the bottom of your feet, grounding you to the earth. Deepen the breath. Slowly lift both arms overhead and gaze up towards the ceiling. Engage your core. Lower to forward fold, bring hands together, lower them down through heart center, start to hinge from the hips, drop belly to thighs, arms and head reach to floor. Rise half lift, flattening your back, hands to shins, gaze is down, shoulders press away from ears. Step back into a plank position, bend your knees so you can plant your hands on the mat and step back into plank. Heels in line with hips in line with shoulders. Drop the knees to the mat and uncurl the toes. Lean forward for chaturanga, shoulders past the wrists, bending the elbows, keeping them close to body, lowering chest down first and then the hips, tops of feet return to mat. If that was uncomfortable on your wrist or just creating too much sensation, however you can get down to your belly is fine with me. Elbows stay up towards the ceiling. Draw the breath in and lift the chest to baby cobra. Exhale to your rest position, puppy pose or child's, hips to heels. Attention comes back to the breath. Use your inhale to rise back to tabletop on the hands and the knees, and your exhale to meet me in downward facing dog. Lift knees off a mat, hips up to ceiling, belly back towards the thighs. Knees can stay bent if you don't want to create any more sensation in the legs. Deepen the breath. Give me a deep breath in through nose, out through mouth. Look forward, shift the weight forward, draw left knee into chest, step or place the foot into lunge, lift up to tips of fingers. Step up to half lift, hands to shins, flatten back. Lower to forward fold, bend knees, belly touches thighs. Tuck your chin into your chest and slowly round the spine up to standing. Same thing, stand nice and tall with purpose at your mat. Slowly lift both arms overhead and gaze up to ceiling. Lower to forward fold, hands come down through heart center, belly drops back to thighs. Rise half lift, flatten your back. Step back into your plank position, plant the hands, heels aligned with hips in line with shoulders, and lower the knees to tabletop. Lean forward for chaturanga, shoulders past the wrist, bend elbows close to body, chest down, hips down, tops of feet to mat. Draw the breath in, lift the chest, baby cobra. Exhale to child's pose, rest position. Inhale as you return to tabletop, hands and knees, and exhale to downward facing dog, hips up to ceiling, belly presses towards the thighs. I know down dog can be a lot for us, beginners or experienced practitioners. You can always skip a down dog, stay in your rest position, and jump back in when you're ready. If you're in down dog, give me another deep breath. In through nose, out through mouth. Maybe let out a little sigh, let everything go. Look forward, shift weight forward, step or place right foot into lunge. Step up to half lift, flatten back, hands to shins. Lower to fold, belly meets the thighs. Tuck chin into chest and round the spine, up to standing. This last time through, let's try to tie the breath in with the movement. Inhale, lifting arms overhead, gaze up to ceiling. Exhale out the mouth as you lower to forward fold, belly meets the thighs. Inhale, half lift, flatten the back. Exhale as you step back into plank and drop the knees to tabletop. Take a breath in here with knees to mat. Exhale, chaturanga, leaning forward, bringing chest all the way down, flat to mat. Breathe in, baby cobra, chest lifts. Exhale to your rest position. Inhale and rise back to tabletop. Exhale, downward facing dog, hips up to the ceiling. Few breaths here. You can find movement in your down dog if you prefer. Whatever feels good to you. There is no right or wrong. You can try pedaling the feet if you're unfamiliar, but you want to try something out. Step your left foot into lunge. Inhale as you step up to half lift. Exhale, forward fold, belly to thighs. Try to draw the inhale out as you slowly rise to standing. And exhale at the top. Lift your arms out to shoulder height. Draw them directly in front of you, palms facing one another. Bring your right arm underneath and start to wrap the arms around each other like vines, aiming to bring the palms together. But if that's not accessible, the back of the hands works just as well. Squeeze the arms tight together, lift the elbows, drop shoulders down the back for eagle arms. Holding here. Bend the knees as you would in chair pose, like you're taking a seat in an imaginary chair, rounding the tailbone under, sending weight in the heels. Draw the breath in as you straighten the legs, lift arms overhead, and exhale to forward fold. Belly slowly lowers down to the thighs. Rise, half lift, breathing in. Step your right foot back into lunge, bringing fingertips down to floor. On the ball of the right foot, left knee is stacked right over the ankle. Bring hands to your forward thigh, lifting the chest to high lunge, extending the arms overhead. Pressing firmly out through right heel. Left knee is tracking towards the pinky toe. Breathing here. Strengthening our legs. And we'll add a belly twist, twisting to the left, keeping hips squared to the front of the mat, lowering arms down to shoulder height. Inhaling, lifting arms back overhead and turning forward. Exhale, twisting to the right, keeping legs engaged, lowering arms down shoulder height. Inhale, lifting arms overhead, facing forward. Open to 5-pointed star, turning to the right side of the mat, planting feet flat, lowering arms to shoulder height. Turn the toes away from one another and bring hands to hips, planting the feet firmly on the floor. All four corners, outer and inner heel, outer and inner ball. Bend the knees into goddess pose, stacking knees right over the ankles, sending hips down towards the floor. Keep the chest lifted, find length through the spine. Taking a few breaths here. Still pressing firmly into all four corners of the feet. Try not to lean towards one edge of the foot or the other. Inhale as you straighten the legs. Turn both feet forward to face the long edge of your mat. Left foot turns forward towards the front of the mat. Lift the arms back to shoulder height And bend the knee into warrior two, stacking it right over ankle, hips and shoulders face long edge of mat. Windmill, arms down to lunge, lifting right heel off the floor, fingertips to mat. Step back into a plank position and drop the knees to tabletop. Lean forward, chaturanga, lower all the way down. Keep elbows close to body. Inhale, lift the chest, baby cobra. And exhale to your rest position, child's pose. Take a few breaths here, bringing attention back to the breath. Filling up the sides of the body and the back side of the body with breath. Breathing in our life force. Exhaling what we no longer need. Inhale to meet me in a tabletop position. And exhale to downward facing dog, hips up to the ceiling. Take a few breaths here. Find a little bit of movement if you want to. And step your right foot into lunge. Breathe in as you step up to half lift, back flat. Exhale as you lower to fold, belly meets thighs. Slowly rise up to standing as you draw breath in. And exhale at the top. Lift both arms back to shoulder height. Draw them in front of you, palms facing one another. This time, left arm crosses on the bottom. Wrap the arms around like vines, palms together or back of hands. Elbows up and shoulders down. Squeeze those arms nice and tight. Engage your core. Find a chair pose. Send the hips back like you're taking a seat. Round the tailbone under. Keep chest lifted. Keep core engaged. Inhale, straighten legs, lift arms overhead. Exhale, forward folds, belly meets the thighs. Inhale, half lift, flatten back. Exhale as you step left foot back into lunge on the ball of the foot, right knee stacked over ankle. Hands come to forward thigh, then extend the arms overhead into high lunge. Hips square towards the front of the mat. Tuck the ribs in close to body. If you have the flexibility in the shoulders, draw the arms back towards the ears. Exhale as we belly twist to the right, lowering arms down by sides. Inhale as we lift arms overhead, untwisting. Exhale, twisting to the left, lowering arms shoulder height. Inhaling, turning forward, arms overhead. Open a 5-pointed star facing the left side of the mat, feet flat, arms to shoulder height. Bring hands to hips and turn the feet away from one another. Plant your feet firmly to the mat. Walk the feet in closer if you need to. Exhale as we settle to goddess, sending hips down to floor, stacking knees over the ankles, holding here. Spine stays long. On the inhale, straighten the legs, turn both feet forward. Right foot turns towards the front of the mat, lift the arms back to shoulder height and bend the right knee into warrior two. Stack it over ankle, hips and shoulders facing long edge of mat. Windmill, arms down to lunge, lifting left heel off the mat. Step back to a plank position and drop the knees to tabletop. On your exhale, lower to chaturanga all the way flat to mat. On your inhale, lift chest to baby cobra. On the exhale, find child's pose. Deepening the breath. On your inhale, return to tabletop. On your exhale, find downward facing dog. Last down dog of the day. If you're familiar with other variations of down dog and you'd like to take them, go ahead and take them now. Then look forward and step left foot into lunge. Inhale as you step up to half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale as you rise up to standing nice and slow. And exhale at the top. The next few poses we're going to try with our eyes closed. They're all poses that we've done throughout the class several times, so I don't want you to feel any anxiety about it or think you're not going to know where you're going. Just trust yourself and your body. If you move incorrectly, that's okay. The important thing is that we are being present in the moment and focusing on ourselves. And removing one of the senses, closing the eyes, is going to help us do that. Start by closing the eyes and placing one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Still standing nice and tall, shoulders relaxed down the back. Deepen the breath just a bit. And bring your attention to all sensations you feel in the body. Lower your arms down at your sides, eyes are still closed. Deep breath in as you lift arms up and overhead. Exhale as you slowly lower to forward fold. Try to slow down the movement just a bit. Just hang out for a breath or two here. Shake the head yes and no a few times. Maybe gently sway side to side with core engaged. Tuck your chin in towards your chest as you slowly inhale and rise back to standing. And exhale at the top. Hand returns, one to chest, one to belly, lower chin to chest. Take a breath or two here. Lift your chin from your chest, lower arms down by your sides. Open the eyes if you like, they can stay closed. Inhale, lifting both arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold, belly to thighs. Inhale, half lift, flatten the back. Exhale as you step back into a plank position and slowly lower yourself all the way down to your belly. Big toes touch, heels fall away from one another. Head turns to one side so you can rest on your cheek. Arms are along the sides of the body, palms face up towards the ceiling. Wiggle the shoulders down the back. Take a deep breath in through your nose. As you exhale out through the mouth, imagine you're melting onto your mat. Gently turn your head to the opposite side. Bring your chin to the mat, place your hands underneath your shoulders and press yourself into child's pose. Slowly rise to tabletop. Cross the ankles and the hips down to the mat. Let the legs come forward so you're in a seated position. Inch your way until you're sitting in the center of your mat. Plant your feet on the floor, hands on the back of the thighs, find length through the spine. Ground your sits bones into the floor and relax shoulders down your back, gazing between the feet. Creating a little stability in the spine here. Belly button gently draws back towards the spine. Engaging our core and the muscles in our back. Start to round the spine, caving the belly in, and with control, one vertebrae at a time, we'll round down until we're flat on our back. So we're working on our core here as we slowly lower down with control. Once we're flat on our back, lower our legs to the floor, lift our arms overhead. Give me a nice long stretch. Stretch through the tips of your fingers, through the toes. And as you release, lower your arms down at your sides and just hang heavy onto the floor. Draw both knees in towards your chest, interlacing the fingers, holding below the knee, drawing thighs close to body, feet side by side. If you need ease for your knees here, you're not feeling very comfortable in the knees, you can hold on to the back of the thighs instead. If you have maybe a little more flexibility and you like a little more sensation, try grabbing onto opposite elbows, holding on below the knees. Make sure low back stays flat to mat. And everyone gently tuck your chin in towards your chest. Breathe into the sides of the body. Breathe into the chest and into the throat. Place the hands on the back side of your thighs if they're not there already, and extend your legs up to the ceiling into our inversion. Heels are lined up about over the hips, and we're holding here for about 45 seconds. If it gets a little difficult for you to keep the legs up, you can gently bend the knees, drawing thighs close to body, keeping the feet elevated, still getting all the benefits, helping to induce relaxation, improving our circulation. Draw the knees all the way into the chest, lower the heels down towards the body. Place your arms along the floor at shoulder height, palms face up. Let your knees fall to the right into recline spinal twist, head turns to the left. Gently close the eyes if they're not closed already. This is our last pose before our final resting pose. I'm going to take a little time here. If you're interested in increasing sensation here, if the knees are touching the floor and touching each other to be safe, try taking your right hand to the top of the knees. Gently giving pressure, pressing them into the floor as you press left shoulder onto the floor. Giving yourself a little bit of an assist here. Slowly draw the knees back to the center of the chest. Let them fall over to the left. Head turns to right. Just take a few breaths here before you make any adjustments. If you gave yourself an assist on the opposite side, repeat here. Left hand this time to the top of the knees. Slowly draw the knees back to the center of the chest, holding on to the legs however is comfortable, maybe interlacing the fingers below the knees or holding on back of thighs. And we'll find a little bit of movement, gently rocking side to side. Maybe eyes are closed now. And slow down your movement until you find stillness. Slowly lift your head to meet your knees. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Hold the breath at the top. Slowly exhale out the mouth and release your hold on your body so you can lay flat on your mat. Spread your legs and your arms nice and wide. Take up as much space as you can. Toes fall away from each other. Palms are face up to ceiling. Shoulders wiggled away from ears. Eyes are closed. Take another deep breath in through the nose. And as you exhale out through the mouth, melt onto the mat once again. Draw your attention to your breath. Following every rhythmic inhale and exhale. Breathing in our life force. Exhaling what we no longer need. If your attention has wandered, bring your attention back to your breath. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, welcome movement back to your body. Slowly roll over to the right side of your body and take a moment of stillness on your side. Arm can support the head like the pillow if you need. And whenever you're ready, keeping your eyes closed or your gaze lowered to the floor, slowly press yourself up into any comfortable seated position. I love to stay in that moment of stillness a little longer, so if you're like me and you're not seated yet, that's okay. Just keep an ear open so you know where we're headed. As always, to finish class, we'll take 3 cleansing breaths together as one. That's breathing in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. Today we'll take a 4-count breath, so we'll inhale for a count of 4 and we will exhale for a count of 4. If after the first round of breath, the 4 count comes easily to you, I encourage you to increase your count to a count of 5. It's okay if we're not exactly on the same pace. We'll all start on an exhale, releasing all the breath we have out of the body. Start breathing in through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Exhale out of mouth, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Last time, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, and 4. Take a moment to thank yourself. Thank your body for getting you through this practice. Thank your mind for its patience. And I'd like to thank you for letting me lead you on this practice. There is a light that exists within me that honors and respects the light that exists within each and every one of you. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's practice. If you did, there is a new class aired every Monday at 8 a.m. and there are classes that are aired every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Classes of mine. On Wednesday, that would be core yoga. It's structured much like this class, however, it's a lot more challenging. I tie in a bunch of core work, but I think it's a lot of fun. Try out all the classes we have to offer, and I hope to see you guys practicing in person soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.